Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else, this is John Paval with the Access Arts Live Chamber Music live stream roundup for the week of February 23rd to March 2nd. And we have a lot. We have 15 different live streams of chamber music for you this week from all over the planet. We have them from... Where do we have them from, John? Well, I'll tell you that, but just in a second. I had all the names written down somewhere. So from London to Madrid to Philadelphia to Houston to New York City, back to London and more. So it's a great week of live streaming for those of you who love the chamber music of different kinds, both early music and the latest now music being composed now and performed for the first time, etc. Now, if you've been following Access Arts Live, as I recommend you do, then you'd already have seen this afternoon St. Mary's Perryville live streaming the up-and-coming young poet, pianist, Kyle Hutchings, who's called the Poet of the Piano by International Piano Magazine, playing Mozart, Liszt, and Rachmaninoff. But you might have missed it if you have not been following us. You would also know about this evening's concert with Noontime Concert San Francisco. Well, evening here in Europe, 9:30 in the evening, but 12:30 in San Francisco, the city by the bay, and 3:30 in the afternoon in New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, places like that. And we put out separate notices about both of those, so I don't need to dwell on them any longer. Folks, we have 5 different live streams coming up for you tomorrow, Wednesday, February 25th, on that one day alone. So let me get to that for you. Hold on. Let me get you the photograph of the guitarist who's in the first of them, I believe. Adolfo Gutiérrez Arenas. All of you Bach lovers out there, March Vivo concludes and climaxes its week-long 5 live stream concert festival of the complete solo works of Johann Sebastian Bach. On the harpsichord, violins, a trio playing Inventions, and on February 25th, the complete cello suites played by expert cellist Adolfo Gutiérrez Arenas, and you see his photograph there. That'll be at 6 o'clock in the evening in Europe, noon on the East Coast, 9 in the morning on the West Coast. This is if you watch the earlier the violin concert where they were playing partitas, there were specific dances that appeared in the suites: the allemande, the courante, the sarabande, and the gigue. And they all appear in these suites as well, complemented by an initial prelude and then another pair of dances. So he'll be playing Bach's Cello Suite number 1 in G major, number 2 in D minor, and number 5 in C minor, grouped together in the first half, which is 75 minutes. And then he takes a break and comes back and does suite number 4, 3, and 6 in the second 75 minutes. It's a long concert. He's going to be putting some work in. Arenas was born in Munich, but with a name like Adolfo Gutiérrez Arenas, he's clearly Spanish. He's been around a while. He has an extensive discography already, which includes recordings of these complete Bach cello suites. So this is not new to him. He didn't have to learn this up for the occasion. He also has recorded all of Rachmaninoff's cello sonatas. He's played with orchestras like the Gewandhaus Orchestra in Germany, the Spanish National Orchestra. He's done recitals in New York, Boston, Chicago, and LA. A top cellist, bringing to a magnificent close what was a wonderful festival for Bach lovers. Then, about 6 hours after that? Yes, 6 hours after that, because that's at 6 o'clock or something. Yeah, 6 hours after that, we move back to the United States and the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, as it's now called. The Millennium stage at the Trump Kennedy Center is live streaming a concert for the woodwind and brass ensembles of the U.S. Naval Academy Band chamber players, featuring both traditional works and new works composed for the band in response to his annual call for scores competition. That's Wednesday, February 25th at 6 p.m. on the East Coast in the U.S., 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast, midnight here in Europe, 10 o'clock Thursday morning down under in Australia. We don't have a specific concert program of what they're going to be playing. If you look up their website for the Naval Academy Band chamber players, you will find that they are on a roll of doing a series of concerts, and you can find out the kind of pieces they're playing. But it's a mix of, you'll hear some marches like the Washington Post March, but you'll also hear real chamber music. Last weekend it was the Air Force chamber music group, a brass ensemble. And don't be misled by the fact, well, this is the Army that just play marches. No. They play sophisticated music. And in this, you'll have both woodwind and brass ensembles. So expect a sophisticated program and expect them to give fairly intelligent explanations and focused on why they're picking out particular pieces of music and why they like them. Then 90 minutes after that starts, we have another live stream, which will be taking off from Philadelphia, which is not all that far from Washington, D.C. You can drive there if you don't want to take the train. It's one of the few places you can take a train from Washington. There's not a lot of places you can really take trains to in the U.S., but a train from Washington to Philadelphia is very doable. Wednesday, February 25th, the Philadelphia Chamber Music Society live streams flautist composer Nathalie Joachim and violinist Yvonne Lam's performance of Joachim's piece Solitude plus SPACE, an immersive evening-length performance about loneliness, connection, and the emotional complexities of living in a hyper-connected world. How do you negotiate between your singular and collective existence? The program notes talk about how we're increasingly isolated in a hyper-connected world. If you go on public transport in any city in Europe, you see all these people who know each other, couples, and they're not talking to each other. They're each on their own phone. You see parents with their children, each on their own phone. I mean, everybody's connected, but people are increasingly atomized and isolated. So Joachim is she's a flautist and a Grammy-nominated performer and composer. She's Haitian American. She's an assistant professor of composition at Princeton University. She regularly does commissions for orchestras, instrumental and vocal ensembles, dance, interdisciplinary theater. And she's come up with this piece for voice, flute, violin, electronics, and sampled field recordings with immersive lighting. So this is total interactive. This is 21st century creation. As for Yvonne Lam, she's a Grammy Award-winning violinist, an assistant prof of violin and the chamber music coordinator at Michigan State University since 2019. I went to Michigan, but I won't hold that against her. She won the Grammy Award for Best Chamber Music Small Ensemble Performance on the album Filament, which she did as co-artistic director of a group that she was part of called Eighth Blackbird. And she toured with that ensemble internationally for about 8 years. They put out 3 albums. And she even founded a Blackbird Creative Lab, a tuition-free training program for performers and composers in Ojai, California. Check it out. Sounds interesting. But that's not all. There are 2 more live stream performances that day. I swear you can just sit around doing nothing but enjoying live streams that day. So let's move on to the next one, which brings us to the accordion. Accorde, accorde, accordeon. That's a song in French. That's very well known. Okay. If you love the accordion, you may already know of master accordionist and composer Guy Klucevsek, who passed away last May 2025. But Roulette Intermedium is live streaming a memorial concert for him on February 25th, featuring works for ensemble, solo accordion, dance, and theater, performed by artists who knew him well, often as collaborators, and his wife is involved. It's so they'll be telling stories about Guy and and all of that. It's a long list of people participating in it. You've got bass players, piano, trumpet, accordion, saxophones, electric guitars, etc. All kinds of speakers, violinists. The Wall Street Journal described Klucevsek as a trailblazing virtuoso. Seattle Weekly said, forget everything you thought you knew about the accordion. And the Village Voice said, Klucevsek writes the world's most abnormal, normal music, like the Godzilla of accordions. No other composer on the scene is so untouched by fashion. And when the Village Voice talks about fashion, I think they know what they're talking about. Enjoy it, all you accordion lovers, or even non-accordion lovers. It sounds lovely. Very human event. So far, all of these events are free of charge, by the way. I don't think we have any live stream this week which are not free of charge. And finally, for the fifth and last of the live streams, and this is great, Schubert and Lieder lovers can enjoy a top quality performance of Schubert's Die Schöne Müllerin by top baritone and operatic success Konstantin Krimmel, whose recording of this piece won the coveted Preis der Deutschen Schallplattenkritik. I love saying that. The German Record Critics Award. Okay. Das Wandern ist des Müllers Lust, das Wandern. Es muss ein schlechter Müller sein, dem niemals fiel das Wandern ein. Das Wandern, etc. That's, if you don't know it, this is the one to discover, because this is the best of the Schubert songs. This might be the best song cycle ever composed, if you ask me. I worked on it for years and never got around to finally performing it in recital, but I had a heck of a good time doing so. He's accompanied on this by a top pianist, Ammiel Bushakevitz. Listen, I can tell you more about both of them. They're top people and they have great resumes, but you know, the fact that he won the Preis der Deutschen Schallplattenkritik for a contemporary recording of Die Schöne Müllerin, which has been done a zillion times, that says it all. If you love Schubert, or if you don't, if you want to discover it, this is the one to discover it. You don't want to discover Schubert through Winterreise, which is it's not on the same level, but that's just personal opinion. Anyway, the jury that gave him the prize commended him for the ways in which he gave, quote, the all too familiar a personal spin, and for the quote unquote sheer beauty of his sound. Check it out. Come on. So those are the 5 things on Wednesday. I needed to get through all of those in a reasonable period of time, or I'd never keep within the bounds of time that I try to observe here. So now I can relax a little bit, unbutton my coat, and we can talk about Thursday's live stream, coming to you from Midtown Concerts. Would you like to take a voyage of love, maybe in Italy, which makes many people think of romance? Well, you can do so via 17th century Italian song in Midtown Concerts live stream of the Lazzuli Baroque Ensemble's Viaggio d'Amore, Thursday, February 26th. This is at their usual weekly time of 1:15 p.m. New York City time. On Thursday, 10:15 in the morning on the West Coast in LA, and 7:15 in the evening here in Europe. The performers in this concert are Rocky Duval, mezzo-soprano, who was one of the founders of this group, Lazzuli Baroque, Luce Burrell on the lute and theorbo, and Carolina Nicola on the viola da gamba. This is a program which will take you through, by means of song, those stages of love, which they tell us are hope, infatuation, fighting, the breakup, and even I'm not going to tell you whether it's a happy or a sad ending. The program notes do, but I don't want to ruin it for you. Anyway, and this is a group that was put together to illustrate tight soprano harmonies and having fun making music. So they're based in Toronto. They've been doing a fair amount in 2025. They did a fair amount of touring in the or number of concerts in Toronto in the spring and in the fall, notably at St. James Cathedral, which is one of the places which regularly live streams organ recitals. In fact, right now at 7:15 in the evening here in Europe, at 1:15 in the afternoon in Toronto, and St. James Cathedral is live streaming an organ recital right now. So if you're an organ lover and you just happen to be stumbled into this chamber music thing, you can come back and watch this as a recording. Go see that organ recital as a live stream. Anyway, so that's what's brought to you this week by the good folks at Midtown Concerts, who always put on top concerts with quality, experienced people. And then things are quiet as far as chamber music goes on Friday, although, folks, you never know, because there are the Moscow Philharmonic Society and the St. Petersburg Philharmonic Society. They regularly will wait until the morning of or the night before a live stream before they tell us that it's going to happen. And some of those live streams are chamber music. So you might want to follow those two channels on Facebook if you want to know about it. And Zarodnya Hall does similar things, so which to me is showing disrespect for the online audience. I'm sure they don't experience it that way, but I don't know any other way to look at it. And then we're back to Saturday, February 28th. March Vivo launches a new series devoted to rhythm and music, starting with flamenco rhythms, soleares, bulerías, and alegrías, played by the very accomplished flamenco guitarist Gerardo Núñez. That'll be at noon here in Europe, 6 in the morning on the East Coast, 3 o'clock in the morning, late night, Friday night, if you're on the West Coast, 10 o'clock at night, Saturday evening down under in Australia. They're focusing on rhythm in this new series. This is the first installment. And in their view, flamenco rhythm is not just something added to it. It's the core of what the dance or what the music is. And the music is formed of what are called palos, which are rhythmic formal structures that form the backbone of the flamenco repertoire. So what I said in the introduction about soleares, bulerías, alegrías, those are palos, P-A-L-O-S. Núñez is a flamenco guitarist. The pieces he's playing he's going to play a piece called Towards Me, which includes Rondeña, Farruca, and Bulerías, a piece called Sevillanas, a piece called Hermitage of the Morning Star, Soleá por Bulerías, a piece called To Jose Marie, which is Bulerías, Bridge of the Moonlight Ones, Tonguillos, and At the Arch, Bulerías. So it's all structured around these different styles. He was born in Jerez de la Frontera, Spain in 1961, grew up and began his career by accompanying top flamenco singers at the Flamenco Studies Department in Jerez, was then the main accompanist to the dancer Carmen Cortez, composing the music for her shows even. And in the 1980s began reaching out and collaborating with artists like Paquito de Rivera. He's got a long discography, and he is the recipient of the Nikolai Rubinstein Medal from the Tchaikovsky Conservatory in Moscow. Check out those rhythms on Saturday. Okay, then we're back to Wigmore Hall again with a show that I cannot take the time to describe it to you in detail here today, but I will tell you enough about it so you know it's happening. I'm going to have to either include it. I'm going to mention it again tomorrow because it's such a big deal when I do the roundup of big stage productions, because this is a big stage production. I mean, that's La Nuova Musical or La Nuova Musica, which is the orchestra involved in this. Wigmore Hall is hosting a veritable Handelian opera disguised as a work of sacred music, Handel's Il trionfo del tempo e il disinganno, the triumph of time and disillusion, performed by La Nuova Musica with director David Bates, soprano Janine DeBeek, mezzo-soprano Polly Leach, countertenor Christopher Lowry, and tenor Nick Pritchard on Saturday, February 28th. That'll be at 8:30 in the evening, European time, 2:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast, 11:30 in the morning out there in LA. I'm going to do a treatment of this, probably a separate treatment, the way I do operas, where I give you the four main singers and I give you background on them, et cetera, et cetera. Can't do that today. What I will tell you is when Handel was 21 years old, he gets invited by one of the dukes of the Medici family to come to Rome. And he did so. This is like 1706, something like that. But he gets there. He thinks he's going to work on an opera, but public opera had been banned in the Papal States for nearly a decade already. So if he wanted to compose an opera, he had to pretend it was something else. So, and not only that, he's not Catholic, he's Lutheran, lifelong Lutheran. And there he is. So he finds a piece by Pamphili, a Catholic meditation on vanity, on the vulnerability of earthly beauty to the ravages of time. And thereby came Il trionfo del tempo e il disinganno. You know, and there's a lovely aria in one of the French operas about asking the gods to protect the beauty of a beautiful young woman from the ravages of time and the weather. It's called Ange du Paradis. La da da dee dee dee, la da da couvre la de vos ailes, etc. It's all about. Anyway, very sad. Anyway, I'll give you a different write-up on that one anyway. We have to move on to the other things because we have so much going on this weekend. What's next? Oh yeah, this great show that's coming out of Houston, Rocco Houston, which specializes, I really love them because they've been specializing in live streaming for years. Houston Rocco's Unchambers series live streams Music in the Age of Edison. Saturday, February 28th. This is a site-specific celebration of Houston's Julia Edison's library and the women's murals which were painted therein during the Great Depression in the United States. This is curated and performed by harpist Laurie Meister, and it includes a newly commissioned work about those murals by British composer and master of the King's music, Errol Wallen. This is at 5 o'clock Houston time on Saturday, February 28th, 6 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight in Europe, but maybe worth staying up for. 10 o'clock Sunday morning down under in Australia. This, the Houston Public Library Foundation sponsored the commissioning of this piece by Errol Wallen. During the Great Depression in the United States, a government agency called the Works Progress Administration, the WPA, went out doing things like collecting oral histories and commissioning, like they commissioned women artists to paint murals in the library. And they painted murals about like the voyages of Columbus and the Spanish exploration, sort of patriotic, traditional things. But Wallen looks at the history around all of that. In 1492 and 1493, and the Toledo School of Translators. She has a clip out on YouTube in which she discusses it. She's very erudite. Okay, this is not just a composer playing with pieces of music, which is, I have nothing, but there's a lot of erudition accompanying this on her part. And so I think this is really interesting, and I think it's an exciting event. And Laurie Meister you could call her Houston's harpist. She's the principal harpist of the Rocco group. She's also been at times acting principal harp of the Houston Grand Opera and a sub with the Houston Symphony and the Houston Ballet. She's she's been a guest harpist with various orchestras across the U.S., has been a concerto soloist too. She's on Rocco's Grammy Award-winning recording Visions Take Flight, teaches at Interlochen summer camp. I'm from Michigan originally. Interlochen is a great place to teach. Anyway, there will also be accompanying her Eva Burmeister on the violin and Shino Hayashi on the cello, because they're playing Errol Wallen's piece, which is for the harp. So Wallen and Meister worked together on that. Then Debussy's Children's Corner Suite. Then Camille Saint-Saëns' Fantasy for Violin and Harp. And Granville Bantock's Hamabdil for cello and harp. So you can see then where Eva Burmeister on the violin and Shino Hayashi come in on the cello. As for Wallen, she was born in Belize, moved to the UK when she was just like 2 years old. She has originally trained as a dancer in London and New York before studying a music competition at Goldsmiths and at the University of London and the King's College London, and then King's College Cambridge. She's composed over 22 operas, numerous orchestral, chamber, and vocal works. If you don't know her, this is a chance to discover her. I didn't know her, but I think she's probably much better known in Britain because of her position as what is it called? Master of the King's Music. You get very well known if you have one of these royal positions. Anyway, to me, it just looks like a beautiful occasion. Then we move on to Sunday. Oh, wait, before I do that, I also want to show you the photo of this marvelous composer. I have a photo of Errol Wallen here. There you see her. She likes to wear these pink glasses. She's wearing them in the YouTube clip where she talks about this event. So or glasses similar to them, because I've seen these before. Okay, let's move on then. We move on to Sunday. I think I have 2 or 3 more live streams to tell you about. Still, folks, it just keeps going on and on and on. There's so much going on, and so let's move on to this group here, Sonorité, which is a very, very, it's a curious group. Sunday, March 1st, St. Mary's Perryville live streams Trio Sonorité, which is Özlem Terkanli on the clarinet, cellist Daryl Giuliano, and pianist Yelena Makarova, playing past and present in dialogue. Music by Max Brooks, Sylvia Lim, Nimrod Borenstein, Colin Riley, and Darius Milhaud. It's sort of bookended by beginning with Brooke and Milhaud, and then in between all these contemporaries. This is at 4 o'clock, their usual time, Sunday afternoon in Europe, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, 7 in the morning on the West Coast. The Brooke piece is 8 pieces for clarinet, cello, and piano. Opus 83. Out of those 8, they'll do 1, 3, 5, and 6. Then they do Sylvia Lim's Left Detail for clarinet, cello, and piano. She's born in 1992, relatively young. Nimrod Borenstein, born in 1969. Lullaby, Opus 81 for clarinet, cello, and piano. Colin Riley's Heads on Sticks for clarinet, cello, and piano, which was composed for Trio Sonorité. I looked on Facebook on their page. They're very excited about playing that. And then Darius Milhaud's Suite for clarinet, violin, and piano, Opus 157B, as arranged by Daryl Giuliano. This group was formed about, 9 years ago in 2017. They're all alumni of the Royal Academy of Music. They performed all over Europe. They play traditional music, but as you can see, a contemporary repertoire. In 2023, they were artist in residence with something called Illuminate Women's Music. They're very devoted to that. And during the lockdown, they got involved in a multimedia project funded by organizations in Scotland and Lithuania. Don't ask me why. Which involved socially distanced online rehearsals and then a live stream recital. And then when that was done, they were doing that with Ruta Witkowskaita's work, Edge of Time, with art projections by the Royal Institute of Painters and Watercolor member, Amy Birnbaum. And they did another project together called Chromaticon, which is another arts and music synthesis project. A creative group of women artists doing interesting things. Check it out. Okay, then I think we have 2 more live streams for me to tell you about. And I'm actually, I'm right up at the 30-minute limit. And I don't know how I could do justice to 15 different live streams in a more compressed period of time. So we're going to take a couple minutes over that 30-minute limit to complete this. Okay, next up, this is the very expert and entertaining violinist Judith Ingolfsson and pianist Vladimir Stupel are a duo who will grace together another Peabody Institute live stream on Sunday, March 1st, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, noon on the West Coast, 9 in the evening in Europe, and 6 o'clock Monday morning down under in Australia, from the Leith Symington Griswold Hall at the Peabody Institute, the oldest conservatory in the United States, in Baltimore, Maryland. Both of these, they're both seasoned soloists. I think they both live in Berlin. They also work together as artistic directors of a festival called Aigues Vives en Musique in southern France since 2009, and another festival called The Last Rose of Summer in Berlin. They also curate 2 concert series, the Duo Plus at the Mendelssohn Remise in Berlin, and Wednesday at the Institute at the Institut Français, the French Institute in Berlin. They did a live stream of music by Rebecca Clark back in September. Peabody Institute does a lot of live streams of students and faculty and stuff like this. This is a guest artist one, and so we included with this, although we don't usually just do the student ones, we're doing the professional ones. This will be a fine, high-quality concert, no doubt, no doubt, even if we don't know exactly what they're going to be playing. Sorry, but nonetheless, you don't need to know. Trust. Okay, and then one last live stream to tell you about, folks. Can't believe I'm still talking after all this time. I've gone over so much material. Well, sometimes we only have half as many live streams in a particular category as we have here. But here's the final, the great conclusion to today's With Madness Incorporated coming to your screens again. Sunday, March 1st, Composers Concordance presents Imitations, or Beware of Imitations, a concert which explores the many ways that musical ideas are echoed, transformed, distorted, and reimagined via things like contemporary fugues, canons, inventions, and other sorts of musical works which are rooted in imitative techniques or an imitative mentality. This will be performed by the Concord Ensemble, which is Gene Pritzker and friends, but specifically Audrey Morse on the violin, John Clark on the horn, Jay Rodriguez Sierra on the saxophone and flute, Pritzker on the electric guitar, as usual. He's the one who leads this merry band of crazy music makers. Special guest performers Daniel Conant on classical guitar, Mark Zaki on the violin, Vicky Cheng and Milos Veljkovic on the piano. This is at 7 o'clock in the evening, Sunday evening in New York City, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 o'clock in the morning here in Europe, and 11 o'clock Monday morning down under in Australia. What a wild way to start your Monday morning down there in Sydney or Melbourne. Anyway, featured compositions in this will be one by Pritzker, which is called Every Day I Have the Fugues. Audrey Morse, the violinist who's in the groups, her 2-part invention for solo violin. Arthur Campella's Fuga a la Bach, and Milos Rejkovic's Bach Travels, and works by Vicky Cheng, John Clark, Jay Rodriguez Sierra, Laura Elise Schwendinger, Marina Vezic, and Mark Zaki. Folks, that's what we have for you. It's a huge week packed with all kinds of live streams beyond anything that I expected to suddenly explode this week. But here we are, and we have all these live streams going on for you. Before I go, look, let me remind you, if you like this kind of programming, do yourself a favor and follow and or subscribe to Access Arts Live absolutely free of charge on Facebook, YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, or LinkedIn. We'll make sure you get more than 1,000 live links to live performances like all of these every year. So I'll say ciao for now. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 or 7 in the evening European time, noon or 1 o'clock on the East Coast, and 10 or 11, is that? So, or it's something like 8 or 9 in the morning on the West Coast with the weekly roundup of big stage productions, including more information about orchestral and operatic works going on this week. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll say ciao for now. It's been a pleasure.